Good afternoon and welcome to Career Week, everyone. My name is Anna Decheki-Qualls, and I'm the Director of External and Alumni Relations for the graduate school here at the University of Maryland. We're excited that you're able to join us for today's panel, Doctoral Career Journeys, with Rishvi, Jayathilake, Michael O'Connor, and Rowena Winkler. This program is brought to you in partnership with the Graduate School and the Alumni Association's inaugural Career Week, a week-long virtual series to help alumni like you explore and advance your career. And this is the first time as well that doctoral students and alumni have really been represented. So I think we can all be very proud of that. As we move forward in the program, I ask everyone to mute themselves until the Q&A part of the program. And then when we do have Q&A, it's very nice for the speakers to have everyone's camera turned on so they feel like they're talking to real folks out there. We have a lot to talk about today. Rishvi, Michael, and Rowena will talk about their career journeys and the role different soft skills and networking played in that process. Then we will have time for Q&A. Please feel free to submit questions using the chat box located at the bottom of the Zoom panel. And I will also be monitoring that throughout. This webinar is being recorded. By participating, you acknowledge and consent to your image, likeness, or voice being recorded. I also would like to address at this point current doc students and postdocs. The Graduate School and the Career Center, under the direction of Susan Martin, provides career support for students and postdocs. To alumni, please look at the website for the events that are open to you, and please join the Doctoral Alumni Network to support or be supported by fellow alums in a space that is predisposed to that kind of connection, unlike LinkedIn. So we'll get started. I would like to just read a brief introduction for each of our speakers, and then we will start in alphabetical order with our speakers. Rishvi Jayathilake graduated in 2019 and is an LTD Defect Metrology engineer for Intel Corporation, a co-founder of Sri Lankan American Knowledge Exchange. She hails originally from Sri Lanka, where she completed a bachelor's degree in chemistry at the University of Colombo. She currently works, as I said, at Intel Corporation. Michael O'Connor graduated in 2014 and is a director of strategy and project management at Medtronic Corporate Science and Technology in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He has over 34 years of professional work experience and 29 plus years of professional experience in project, program, and portfolio management in the medical device industry. He holds graduate degrees in project management, technology management, and business administration, and he has his Ph.D. in civil engineering from the University of Maryland. And last, but definitely not least, Rowena Winkler graduated in 2013 in a Ph.D. in communication and is the agency marketing manager for TSL Marketing, a B2B marketing and lead generation full services agency located here in Maryland. There she manages all aspects of the agency's branding and communications, leads awareness and interest campaigns to increase demand for agency services, and grows the agency's client base through market research tactics and creative marketing strategies. Let's get started. Each panelist will have about 7 to 10 minutes going in alphabetical order by first name. I'll be giving each panelist a 2-minute warning to start wrapping up their remarks. This panel is about diverse doctoral careers. Maryland graduates and PhDs and postdocs go on to successful, satisfying careers in academia, industry, nonprofit organizations, entrepreneurial ventures, and international government agencies and departments. So let's welcome our panelists. I will first pass it on to Rowena, who will kick us off, and then to Rishvi and Michael.
Thanks so much, Anna. So, hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. One of the first things I wanted to say is that I identify myself as a multi-hyphenate, meaning that I have a lot of different interests. I also love school. So, you know, being able to experience the UMD grad program has been amazing. I excelled, you know, in my undergraduate studies in communication studies at the College of New Jersey. I am a New Jersey native, so representing Jersey there. And one of my mentors, Dr. John Pollock, was the one that encouraged me to look at grad programs, and that's what brought me to UMD. And when I got there, I thought, oh, you know, I'll just get a master's and then I'll do marketing for maybe a theater company, because again, as I mentioned, I had a lot of different interests and performing is one of them. But then when I got to the master's program, I realized, oh, I really like teaching. I really like research. I really like making those connections that way. And so I decided to stay on for my PhD. And, you know, one tip that I would give is that networking is key from the get-go. So even if you're a doctoral student or even an undergrad student or alumni, I got my first tenure track job by knowing someone at a different university that I worked with as a graduate student. We worked on a research project together, and that was by making connections with my professors in my department. And so, you know, because that professor at that university, it was at Virginia Commonwealth University, it was my first tenure track job. She was the interim chair, Dr. Yan Jin. She gave me that opportunity to start my career there. For a variety of different reasons, I decided to leave VCU, one of which was my father was really sick. He was dying of cancer. And then my first year at VCU, he passed away. And my boyfriend then, now husband, was working as a government contractor in the DC area and just got promoted. And so, you know, a variety of different personal and professional reasons, I decided to leave VCU. And again, that networking and that connection building came into play because my home department and communication, they offered me the opportunity to serve as the managing director of the oral communication program, or OCP. And so I dabbled in the administration side of things, thought that maybe this was something that could, you know, tickle that multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate bone. I was like, no, I don't think this is it. I don't think this is it. So again, I just went with my gut and decided to make a transition into industry altogether. And so I left the academy in 2016, oh my gosh, I'm getting my timeline mixed up. No, I left VCU. So it was 2017, 2018. And my first industry job was for a computer assisted design company in Maryland. And the lesson learned there and how I tapped into my mentorships there was through an undergraduate professor that I still kept in touch with. And she coached me on how to translate my skill set from academia and working as a professor to industry. Because I had that severe imposter syndrome, y'all. I said, why are they going to hire me? You know, I went straight through from my bachelor's to my master's to my PhD. You know, what do I have to offer? But I was able to translate that into my resume, into my materials, and show, no, actually, I do have skill sets that this organization would like, that would be helpful and beneficial to them. And so I was able to do that. I was able to leverage that skill set. And then now in my current role at TSL Marketing, once again, when I interviewed for that position, I took what I learned as a manager at Vectorwork, where I worked previously, and translate it into this position, which again has to deal with, you know, connecting with folks on the different departments and teams. So as Anna mentioned in my introduction, I'm basically the marketing manager for TSL. So we work with our own clients, but TSL is my client. And in order to do that, I have to interface with the operations team, with the sales team, with the creative team. And so once again, building those connections and being able to have these conversations to get work done has been super important and allowed me to thrive in my career. And so in terms of, you know, I think the overarching theme as you hear my story is just being willing to put myself out there and make those connections, build those relationships. And it is possible if you're interested in moving from an academic job to an industry job. It is possible. It's just all about that messaging, you know, using that communication PhD marketing hat. It really is how you sell yourself and how you message yourself and reframing those skill sets to make you marketable. And so I think I'm out of time, but yeah, happy to connect and answer any questions in the Q&A session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rowena. Rishvi, would you like to go next?
Hi, Anna. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sure. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much, Anna, for having me. It's really exciting to hear back from your alma mater after like 1.5 years. So, yeah, I graduated from University of Maryland with a PhD in chemistry. So before I came to grad school, I had the opportunity to work as a research scientist at a research institute. So right after my college. So I think that's where my turning point was, because working there, I got the opportunity to collaborate with industries while doing research. So coming into the PhD program, I always sort of had an inclination towards industries. The important thing is, like, I think you need to recognize what excites you the most. So for me, it was the fact that in industry you get to work with real world applications. You have to kind of it's kind of sort of like a dynamic environment. You get to work with clients, use your research knowledge in a real world application. So that itself was like really exciting for me. So when I started my PhD, I spoke with my advisor, and I told him this is what I want to do, and he was kind enough to point me towards a research project that has a real world application. So the good thing about the PhD is, like, you have some sort of independence to kind of fine tune what you want to do to a certain extent, of course, given the constraints of funding and all that. But if you recognize what interests you, try to kind of steer your PhD research along those lines. And then after that, I think I focused on developing my skill sets. Like, it could be like data analysis and working on a research problem for an extended period of amount of time. But there are so many free resources available for you, online resources. For instance, I taught myself how to do Python over the internet, like, and there are so many freely available resources. So start building up your skill set from an early stage on. And there are also other things that you learn in grad school, like working independently, taking initiative, and also, like Rowena mentioned, networking is really important. Another opportunity that you can take advantage of is going to conferences. I really encourage for graduate students to apply for conferences, talk to your advisor about it. And there are like funding opportunities for conferences offered from grad school at University of Maryland. So go to conferences, and this is something that I did during my final year in my PhD. I took part in a couple of conferences, as I remember, and I had my the business card printed out, and I would just reach out to, like, just go and sit with a professor or someone from industry who was present at the conference and make conversation, talk to them, like talk about you don't have to necessarily say that you want to join them, but ask about, like, what are the skill sets that you need for this job? What are the opportunities you have? What are the current openings? Always try to, like, put yourself out there, connect with people, and explore, have an interest to know what's going on in the real world right now. So I would really encourage, like, especially during the final year of your PhD, try to attend conferences. And that way I actually did land an interview for a postdoctoral position with an assistant professor who was starting a lab at that time. But the way I joined Intel was completely different. I applied online, and there I would like to point out, your resume plays a huge deal. So once you have your skill set built up and everything, make sure that you have a proper resume. So I remember there was a career fair week at the University of Maryland Graduate School, and we had this session where there were mentors to give feedback on your resume. So get feedback. It's important, like, that you have certain keywords in your resume in order to get selected with that online online selection process. And then what can I talk about else? Yeah, so networking is important, and I would like to point out. So right now, when I look at my job at Intel, some of the skills that I learned from grad school that are really useful right now. One is networking, because you get to work with all kinds of different people in industry. So it's important to have some sort of like people skills, while being professional, you also have to be supportive, and also, trying to work together towards the same goal is something that you have to really learn when you're in industry. And the other thing is working at a problem for an extended period of time, to have that sort of stamina for problem solving and critical thinking. That's important. So the advice I would give to someone who's considering a non-academic career is that recognize what excites you, recognize why it's important for you to go to a non-academic career, because even in an interview they would ask you that question. So it's important to have that self-awareness. Why would you would like to have such a career? And the other advice is start building your skill set. Thinking about the position that you want to end up in, start building the soft skills, both technical and soft skills. And yeah, the third one is networking. Reach out to people to be aware of all the opportunities. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say, Anna.
Thank you so much, Rishvi. That was awesome. Michael, you're the last, but definitely not the least.
Yeah, so thank you, Anna, and great discussion so far, very interesting. So I'm probably the most non-traditional student here, and clearly further along in my career. So as Anna said, I work for Medtronic in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so that's where I'm at right now, where it's pretty cold here. I work in a company that's 100,000 people. So, I work at corporate. So I oversee the entire company being in corporate science and technology. And I'm a little engineering geek, so I'm kind of going through some of the prompts that Anna sent us. But the reason I did my PhD is I wanted to make a difference at Medtronic. So I had been in my role for quite a while, so it wasn't so much of what I wanted to do. I had a job. I did my PhD in 4 years while working and having a family and flying out to Maryland from Minnesota quite a bit. So that in itself was quite a feat. But I graduated with a PhD in civil engineering, as Anna said, with a major in project management. And I knew I was going to stay in industry, but what was unique to me is I wanted to teach. So I actually call myself a pracademic, practitioner and academic. So pracademic, I heard it somewhere at a research conference. I didn't come up with it. But, since I've gotten my PhD, I've written chapters in books, articles, I've done podcasts, panel presentations like this. So it's opened up a lot of doors for me to do different things. How has it turned out as I imagined? Yes, very much so, but I will say because of the distance, that was a little bit of a challenge for me. And I remember when I did my proposal, it was a failure, and I had to go back and redo that. So that was an interesting time. And then having a family and working full time was quite difficult, but it did turn out how I imagined. I didn't think it would open up as many doors as it did, but it has. Kind of talking about moving from one position to the next. Since I've gotten my PhD, I won't go with all my history before that, but I was able to get into a role in 2016, so about a year and a half after I graduated, which was the chief of staff for the VP of Corporate Science and Technology. And he wanted someone that was very different. So having a PhD in civil engineering versus biomedical engineering or something else, he took that as a strength, and that was really interesting. So I started working as a chief of staff, which I didn't even know I was going to do. And it came into use, all the things I learned in my PhD program and the networking and everything, to be that chief of staff. And so that was great to have that background and that information. And my boss would always put me on a pedestal saying, hey, I got this guy with a PhD in civil engineering, and here's what he does. But it's also propelled me into future roles. So that boss has since moved on. I reported to the chief medical officer, who reported to the CEO for a while. And he loved the background I had too and the things that I had to offer. So that was something that I didn't see. And then I would say, from strategies that work for me from one position to another, things like LinkedIn, the networking, people have already talked about that. It can't be underestimated. You need to network. You need to be prepared. I think that's the key word here. I would say in my whole presentation is being prepared. And part of being prepared is having your LinkedIn filled out and having all the information there you think is pertinent, and connecting with people that you think would be good to have in your network. And that, I'll leave that up to you, however you want to determine that. But also having a resume, and I look at a resume as a 2-page resume, no more, no less. Everyone should be able to fill a 2-page resume at this point in their career. Having a CV, I have a very detailed CV, but at least having a CV and having your LinkedIn filled out. And so in the networking part of things, how did that, help me in learning my opportunities? At Medtronic, I network all the time. So I network up, I network down. I meet with the leaders of XCOM. Some people think that they're untouchable, but you have to think large. That means sometimes a couple steps above where you want to be, and you need to meet with those people because they're the influential people. They're the people that hold the money. So you got to be thinking outside kind of the box, and you need to think, what is my next step? Where am I most interested in? People have already talked about it, passion. Where's your passion at? What opportunities exist? What is my path? The best that you can develop it. My path is a zigzag line. It's not a straight line up or down. It goes up, it goes over, it goes back down, it goes back up. So your path is not always linear, and you got to realize that. But again, where's your passion? I think that's a big piece of things. So currently, right now, I am Director of Strategy and Project Management. So what does that mean? That means I basically work with all the VPs of R&D and technology. So I run the R&D Council, which is a group of about 50 people. I run the R&T Council, which is a group of about 20 people. I run the senior leadership team, and I run the technology portfolio group. So it's a lot of things, but networking is very key. And the other thing that's key is using technology. So email, IM, virtual tools like Zoom. Of course, we're all getting used to that now, and we've all been forced into a virtual environment where if we had this meeting before, many people probably didn't want to turn their cameras on. I think most people are comfortable with that now. So you need to be comfortable with the tools, and I think most of you probably are, and then have solid communication skills. You have to be able to communicate up, communicate down, communicate over, and that takes a lot of effort at times, and that's part of the soft skills. You need to really be in tune with the soft skills and what things you do well, what things you don't do. Right now, the other thing that I do is I quarterback all kinds of projects. Like we just had a magazine print ad with Ansys, the software company, and I was given that to quarterback and get it across the finish line. You would think that's very simple, but with legal and corporate communications, we had to do a photo shoot in the pandemic at our company and get approvals and security clearance and all this stuff. Those kind of things, you need to have a different set of skills, and those soft skills come into play. So yeah, my current role is great, and I think my Ph.D. is set me up for a lot of success. And then, my current role, and why is it important to me? Basically at Medtronic, I'm trying to move a ball or a rock up a hill with project management. So we don't have a corporate project management group. So when I finished my Ph.D., the first thing I did is I started a grassroots effort to get a project management team together. And I started that in about 2016. It's still going today. It's about 9 people globally. I have people in China, people in Europe, and many people in the United States. And I'm basically making an impact without having resources or money. We're doing training, we're doing communication, we're doing articles, all kinds of things. So as far as that PhD helping me, yes, it gives me credibility. I have a lot of experience. I learned things while I was at Maryland in the program. So that's been fantastic. And then, fostering good working relationships with connections and colleagues. Again, I think it's about communication and a cadence of communication. So once I find someone that I want to network, typically I'll meet with them quarterly for a half an hour, maybe 15 minutes. Pre-COVID, it was easy at headquarters. I could do coffee or lunch or other things. But now during this pandemic, I have a big opportunity because everyone's just like me. They're working from home. So that kind of levels the playing field. We know this isn't going to be forever. Maybe in the fall, things open up. So what I would say to all of you, networking right now should be a very important piece of what you're doing because you have everyone, for the most part, at home. I know some of us are in labs and moving around a little bit, but I think you have this opportunity that you'll probably never have again. And, yes, we'll get back to traveling, we'll get back to doing things. So there is an opportunity right now with that. And you know, because I finished my PhD, I was asked to be on the University of Maryland Bioengineering Board, so I did that for 3 years. And then I sit on a lot of nonprofits. So I sit on probably 5 or 6 boards of nonprofits and actually universities. And then the other thing that I did, like I said earlier, is I teach at 4 universities right now. And it's great now because it's virtual. When I was traveling 50% of my time, it was pretty tough to figure out how to teach and what time zone I was in. But right now it's really good. So I've been doing that since 2015. So I've been doing that for about 6 years. So that's really awesome. And then what advice do I have for someone considering a non-academic career? Again, you know, look at positions, look at industry, figure out what's, you know, in your PhD wheelhouse that you want to go after. You know, think of the pracademic. I like the pracademic, the practitioner, academic. You know, I love to be in both spaces at times and play in both spaces. But yeah, industry is a great place to be. Academic is too, but industry offers a lot of things. I get to work with a lot of MDs. I work with MD PhDs. I work with some people that have 3 PhDs. So I get to work with a lot of very smart people, and teaching graduate school as a part of having my PhD has been very rewarding too. And you know, meeting new people and learning new cultures and whatnot, that's great. I honestly prefer teaching face-to-face versus virtual. But I have to tell you, I did my dissertation on virtual and co-located teams in the R&D environment. So that's played quite well with this pandemic. But yeah, I think that covers most everything I wanted to talk about, and I'll stop there. But if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn or anything else, I'm more than happy to connect and talk offline if needed.
Thank you, Michael. And I at this point, I encourage folks to turn on their cameras and you know, ask questions of any of our panelists. It's one of the beauties of this particular panel is that we're not, you know, we have folks from arts and humanities, and we have science and STEM people. So I think there's an opportunity to gain a lot of insight from both perspectives on how careers were navigated. I have one question for the panelists quickly while people are thinking about a question is, what are some skills that you wish you had learned or fostered in your PhD program that you just didn't have an opportunity to? Not academic and research skills, but those other skills that you could have used when you landed your first job. And I'll start off with Rishvi and then Michael and then Rowena, just quickly answering that question. Rishvi, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, yep. So what are those things that you wish you could have known that you didn't, but would encourage others to now learn?
So more towards soft skills rather than technical skills, right? I wish I had more opportunities to kind of develop my leadership skills. That's something I mean, when you're in a PhD program, you have this like bubble around you. It's sort of, you know, kind of isolated, always working on your research. I think I wish I had more opportunities to kind of, I mean, of course I had opportunities, I just didn't take them. Like, you know, working in a different, like a club, or, you know, engage in some extracurricular activities. I sort of feel that when I'm working at Intel now, yeah, that's something that I feel like I'm lacking, like some leadership qualities to lead, I would say. I kind of lack that soft skill in me. So I would encourage people in grad school to kind of not just get entrapped in what you do with your research. Try to interact with different people from different backgrounds early on. Get some sort of exposure working with different people, leading projects. It could be like an NGO, volunteering opportunities, but get some experience where you get to lead something. So that's something that I wish I had done more.
So
Michael, do you want-
I can go next. Sorry. So I wish, for me, I wish I would have been on campus more. So I was actually flying into campus. I was working with physicians, being part of Medtronic. So when I came out to Washington, D.C., I'd stop at Maryland and meet with my advisor and whatnot. But I wish I could have been more at campus and worked with like the biomedical group and worked with groups outside of the civil engineering and met them at the time. I've since done that. But during my Ph.D., I would have loved to have the foresight and the knowledge to go work with some of those groups and meet people totally outside of what I was doing, the computer area, all kinds of areas, just network more within the university. I mean, Maryland's a very great university and unique from the University of Minnesota, which is near me, is everything's in one campus, where the University of Minnesota is on either side of a river and it's spread out all over the Twin Cities. It's very difficult to move around. So meeting more of the professors, more of the students and whatnot, I wish I could have done that. And like I said, I've done that since, but I think it would have helped me a lot in my PhD program to have those other insights and networks and students from other programs to help me at that time.
Thank you, Michael. Rowena?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what my colleague said. I think that having more opportunities to kind of emerge from your bubble of your department and have the opportunity to work across other areas of research or industry connections, being able to work with different types of experts, different areas, different personality types. I know that for me and in the different jobs that I've had, having to navigate what's the best way to work with different types of people has been helpful. And I think having the opportunity to do that, I was able to do it in my own research, but I kind of had to go across the different areas on campus to do that. So maybe some way to formalize that a bit. And then related, I think project management, I know that we do that in a way when we work on our research projects, but having skill sets related to like actually how to translate that into project management, and I know some of us are fortunate to work on grant projects and whatnot, but even just the day-to-day dealing with tasks as a grad student, time management is really difficult, especially if you have a family, as Michael said, if you're trying to work on top of that and just trying to get all your schoolwork done and get out there and get those jobs can be very difficult. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Those are fantastic points. We have a question here from Lautaro, I believe. I hope I said your name correctly. Rowena mentioned that communicating to companies that we have skills that are valuable to them is really important, but how do you communicate that? Are there some tips to do that in a 2-page resume? And I think everyone talked about, Rishvi as well, about the importance of having a good resume. How do we make that argument in our cover letters, especially if a lot of your skill sets up to this point is of an academic nature?
Yeah, so since, oh, sorry, go ahead, Michael. I was just wanted to respond real quick since it was in reference to something that I mentioned in my chat. Feel free to reach out to me. I can send you the example of that one pager that I worked on with my mentor who coached me through this, because it really is a mindset shift, right? So I'm like, oh, how do these academic publications translate into an industry job? And I pulled it up here, and some of the things that I talked about, I have headers that say higher ed leadership and innovation, right? And I talked about workshops that I ran and research training that I did for students, community engagement, diversity and inclusion I know is big right now. So showing that I had that leadership and had that innovative mindset was one of the areas. I did talk about my grant writing and management because I did have opportunities as a faculty member at VCU to have those grant wins. And so I think that translates well into showing, hey, grant writing is definitely a skill set that's pretty tough. So I think being able to show that was important. I also talked about the different technology solutions and innovation and initiatives that as an academic, I know Michael talked about that technology, and I know we're probably all zoomed out at this point, but showing, I was, as a communication teacher and scholar, I tried to apply that in my classes as a teacher. So doing Twitter chats and learning different, just being able to know how to navigate LMS systems like Canvas or Blackboard. So, that might be useful for an organization that's looking into creating course content for their employees. I even talked about my own personal social media channels that I can market myself as a yoga enthusiast on Instagram, right? So again, it really is reframing and talking about that messaging in a way that might be valuable to an organization. And then at the end, I threw like 3 relevant publications that I had that might be of interest to the company. But there's some tips. And again, if you want to reach out and see what that one pager looked like that I passed out in that interview, and they're like, oh, okay, nice. I'm more than happy to share.
And Rishvi, I was going to ask you, when you a lot of somebody's not on mute. So Rishvi, you were talking about your resume and AI, and I think a lot of resumes initially are read by AI, word recognition as you're, applying to some big company. How did you get your resume to be recognized, or how did you manage that?
Yeah, I think having a spot-on resume is really, really important, because even if you have the required qualifications, so if a company like Intel, they get like hundreds of applications on a daily basis. So this is something that I learned during my final year. There are like a certain set of keywords that get automatically picked up. I think there's a term for that. I can't remember exactly, but so if you're looking at a job posting, so they have this list of job requirements they're asking, right? So imagine like it could be like a programming skill they're looking for, or some like technical evaluation that they're looking for. So make sure that if you have that, of course, I mean, you can't lie on your resume, but if you have that, make sure that you have those exact keywords included. And the structure of the resume also differs industry versus academia. And this is again something that I learned from the feedback that I got from the career fair mentorship program. So it's important to highlight the technical skills that you have at the beginning. So I'm sure if you Google this, you can find a template, or let me know, like you can reach out to me. I can forward you some templates and even my own resume. So what you need to highlight is, so the chances of ending up in an industry where you get to do exactly what you did in grad school is really slim. But what they're looking for are the transferable skills that you develop in grad school. So you sort of need to highlight those skills. For instance, in my research, my application was completely different from what I'm doing right now at Intel. But I'm very good. I mean, in grad school, I did a whole lot of data analysis. So you can say, data analytical skills using this and that. Like, always try to highlight the transferable skills that you gain from grad school. And always show your resume to a mentor and get feedback, work on it. I think I worked on my resume for like 1 month at least, because something that I had to learn from scratch. Like you have to keep working on your resume. So get feedback from your PhD advisor, from your your own group members who are already working in industries. Try to get that feedback. And yeah, coming back to the technical skill question, like you don't need to have exactly what they're looking for, but always try to draw what you have learned from grad school and try to see how you can apply into the job you're applying to. For instance, in interviews, they ask me like, so what experience did you have like working with, other people? So you can say in group meetings, when you're trying to publish a paper, you're trying to, brainstorm ideas and, be confident about it. You already have the skills. It's just, you have to remember like what are the instances where you actually develop this skill. So, communicating with your group members, your PhD advisor, to solve a research problem. This is how we work, there will always be instances in your PhD career where you had already, been exposed to this skill set. So it's just a matter of like drawing those examples then and there and talking to your interviewer or recruiter. So yeah, resume is definitely one of the most important things. Like I said, do reach out to me. I can show you more templates or give you examples on that. Yeah, thank you, Anna.
Yeah, I think I just want to underscore the points that the three of you just made about transferable skills, that it's a matter of taking what you already know and then, making it palpable for people who, are reading your resume with a very narrow view. Are there other questions?
So can I jump in a sec, Anna?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I can't underscore enough the project management that was talked about, and you should probably have at least a basic course in there. I majored in project management, so I did my entire PhD with a plan MS project, and I hit it in 4 years. I did it line item by line item, and I did it on time and in budget and all those good things. So can't stress that enough. On the resume side, someone that's in industry, and yes, they go through a software program, I tell people to take your resume for whatever job you're going to look at, take those keywords and put them in your resume. Figure out how to do that, because they do go through that software system. Sometimes I have to go look because there's people that I want that have been kicked out because of the software system. So that is something. Then the other thing is something I've been doing in the last year or so is I call it infomercial. It's a PowerPoint, 16:9 PowerPoint slide. That is my visual resume. I could show it here if you want it really quick, or I can send it, or we can talk offline. But I tried this on with a senior vice president. He loved it. He could see a lot, and within 15 seconds, he kind of knew who I was, where I came from, and what I've done. I think you could do that same thing with your, early in your career, to research in your PhD. It's something I created myself. I saw it from a gentleman I was talking to in Dubai, and created it. But you got to always look at these angles. How can you get in front of people? A resume is great, but then once you sit down, what can you leave them with that they can really take, your skills and your passion away from that? So I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Michael. Questions?
I do have a questions. So I have more of a confusion. So I think in the department, most of the people around me, they are more interested in academia. So for us, thinking career outside of academia is almost like jumping out of like a prison, but it's not like that negative, but it's almost like that because you are thinking about something very different. But thinking and then versus actually making actions are very different. So I don't know how to make concrete actions by initiating, doing some actions towards developing new careers. And then these can be especially hard when I actually don't know what interests me. So there are so much more career options. I even don't know where to start. And I also need to balance the workload that from my academic research. So there is a psychological barrier from my own hand, and also I don't know where to start with that. So how did you overcome those difficulties when you were at my point?
That totally resonates with me. So I just, first of all, want to say, like, you're not alone. And as someone who was in academia and left after a couple years, feeling nervous, anxious, like I let my department down, but then having so much support and love from my colleagues and from my grad school friends and the academic community, I think it just validates the point that this isn't talked about enough. And so I applaud, Anna and the team for having sessions like this where we can start talking about, that you can do more with the PhD than just going into academia. A resource that I know was dropped in the chat, I think Anna dropped it, is Beyond the Professoriate. So it's beyondprof.com. They have an online conference each year. I don't know if it already passed, but when I was initially thinking about jumping or leaving the prison, as you said, it was really helpful for me because I found like-minded folks who have doctorates or are grad students and thinking of going into industry jobs, and they have a wealth of resources, including webinars. They have coaches. So if you're interested in talking to someone one-on-one about your experience, and I know that you said that you're pressed on time, and I totally get that with your research, but I think finding a community of folks that may not necessarily be in your department, but beyond and maybe in your area of interest or industry that can help broaden your horizons in terms of what's out there and what you can do with your degree. So you're not alone. I'm here to support you. I don't know what area you're in, but feel free to reach out and we can, since leaving, I've had so many conversations with faculty members or grad students who have had the same thoughts. So just want to reiterate again that you're not alone.
Rishvi, were you going to say something? I know you initially jumped on.
Yeah, so same here. I completely feel what you're going through because every PhD advisor, I think, was his or her students to continue what they have done, join academia and continue that academic path. And my PhD advisor was amazing. He was very understanding, Dr. Efrain Rodriguez, but I think I got the feeling like he preferred if I, went for a postdoc. So that's natural. I mean, I'm sure they have the best interest about us in their hearts, but you have to make a decision for what's more suitable for you, right? I mean, that's what I said, like having that self-awareness is important. So once you have recognized, okay, industries, so that's one thing I would suggest. I don't know whether this is feasible for all the programs in grad school, but if you have the opportunity for an internship, please do go for it. I did try to initiate this when I was in grad school because we didn't have an existing internship program in my department. But if there's a capability, you can talk to the department chair, and especially with STEM related degrees, I think having an internship during your PhD program would be really useful because it also gives you an opportunity to see whether this is something where you want to end up at, So look into that if it's possible. If not, like Rowena mentioned, always connecting with your colleagues who are already in industry, networking and talking to them. So I had like several chats with my senior friends who had already graduated and who had already started their careers in industry. So have that conversation, and always remember it's up to you. You have the complete power to change the career path. During the PhD, yes, it's a lot of work. I do understand that, but you also have the opportunity to learn a lot of things on your own. So try to dedicate some time to build that skill set. Like once you recognize what you want to do, recognize what you have to learn so that you get more opportunities and you stand a better chance to get into industry. So start building that skill set from an early stage on. Yeah, so you're not alone. Everyone, I mean, even my friends who were together with me in grad school, they had the same, dilemma, like which way to go. And, there are people who do postdocs and come back to industry, and there are people who go to industries and come back to academia. So sometimes it takes a while. I mean, even I might go back to doing a postdoc, who knows? It just take one step at a time. Just recognize what you need to do right now, and just go from there. Talk to people. Talking to people always helps. So I totally get you.
Thank you so much, Rishvi. Ram had his hand up. Ram, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say this is a really great resource, speaking to alumni. And I think I had very similar feelings about, doing an internship, which tends to be quite hard when you're in grad school because you're always thinking about research. Then you forget about what you're going to do upon graduation. And one of the things that I found really difficult was, networking and applying to positions that are relevant to the work that you've done in your PhD, or at least at something at a higher level in the industry rather than starting in a lower junior position once you've graduated. I wonder if you have any advice in convincing someone at the industry that you can do a senior level job rather than starting out as a junior engineer.
So this is Michael. One thing I would say is, every company is different, the culture is different, so that's something you can't always predict. But one thing I did with my program is, since I was distant and my advisor didn't have a ton of time, I found kind of a mentor slash mini advisor, someone that was really deep into industry and knowledge and taught actually. So that might be something that you could find if there's someone that your advisor could send you to, or someone that you know of. You may want to try to find a mentor or someone that can help you with that. And since you don't have a lot of time, maybe the one person connection would be better than trying to, reach out and see what's going on. So that might be one suggestion that might work for you.
We have time for, I think, one more question from either through chat, or if you want to jump in and ask a question or a comment. If not, I will ask, we've covered a lot of ground. I wanted to ask Rowena, Michael, and Rishvi to have the last word. So is there something that you'd like to, give us parting advice, if you were given the last word? And I'll start with Michael, then Rishvi, and then Rowena will bring up the rear, and then I will make a few comments and we will finish on time.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. I think basically just, keep your passion, keep motivated. I know it's hard. Let me tell you, it was very hard for me with a family and a full-time job. There were times I wanted to quit. But, what I talked about, that mentor, having that mentor I could check in with, I could have them lift me up and keep me going and help me focus. That really helped me. And then having my network at that time on LinkedIn, that sounds kind of ridiculous, but I had like-minded people on LinkedIn that I'd sought out, and they helped me too. So I think, just keep your chin up, keep passionate, keep looking at what the possibilities are. The sky is the limit. I mean, you can be anything, right? You can be the CEO, the president, you're an entrepreneur, whatever. So keep thinking above and beyond what the research that you're doing. I think that's one thing you need to keep in mind. Always think big. And then the other thing is be prepared. Like I said, you need to be prepared for what might come to you or where you might go. So being prepared with some simple things like resume, CV, those are things you should keep in mind.
Thank you. Rishvi?
Yeah, so to add to that, I think, we all went through, I think, during our grad school, it hasn't been like a straight line. We all had like ups and downs and go through phases where you feel like, oh my God, I want to like stop doing my PhD. But, just hang on and you will get through it. And oftentimes, I think for me, what helped me the most was connecting with people. Always try to have some sort of a support system while I'm in grad school. And keep working hard. And right now I'm really, really happy that I did my PhD, because I wouldn't be here at this position, at this company, if it weren't for my PhD and the kind of training that I got in grad school. So it's rewarding, and just keep working, look at this end goal and keep working hard, and reach out to people. That's the advice I could give to current students. And adding to that, working on your skill set, networking, everything is important. And don't feel bad if you haven't figured out what you want to do right now. It takes a while, and it takes a while to find where you want to be. So don't feel bad about that. So yeah, take this as an opportunity to explore and to create that self-awareness, to recognize what you want to do. And I wish everyone all the best, and do reach out to me if you want on LinkedIn. I'm available anytime for anyone if there are questions. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Rishvi, so much. It was great to see you. And Rowena, you're last.
Hey everyone, just wanted to, I kicked it off by talking about being a multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate human being in person. And so with that comes like telling your authentic story. And that's really important to me. And I just want to give the piece of advice that, you know, it can be scary and you might have these feelings of leaving or what to do, but you really need to trust your gut. And I know for me, making the jump was probably one of the best decisions of my life. And I value my time at UMD so much and the connections that I've made. But now that I'm able to translate the skills and connections that I've made and learned from there and into my industry work, it's just, I feel like it's expanded tenfold. And my last plug in terms, I think this is in response to the last question. I don't know if anyone's on Clubhouse, but it's a new app, iPhone based, invite only. But if you're able to snag an invite, it has been so helpful for me to make connections in this pandemic where there are different rooms based on industry. So for creatives, scientists, you know, what have you, entrepreneurs, if that's something you're interested in, it's a great way to make more connections. So get out there, go get them. And thanks again for having all of us on this panel today, Anna.
Thank you so much, Michael, Rowena, and Rishvi for your time and expertise. And, you know, just I haven't seen Rishvi in like, what, a year and a half, 2 years. So it was really great to catch up and great to meet you, Michael, and Rowena, always so supportive. A recording of this webinar will be sent to the email that you signed up with. I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you to our panelists again, and have a wonderful day, and go Grad Terps. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.